And we're live. What's up, my man?
What's going on, buddy?
It's been a long day, but always looking
I
forward
hear you.
to the theater room episode. What's going on? Everyone who jumped into the chat, everyone from GGEN, any newcomers, welcome. This is the Theater Room podcast. We talk about anything entertainment related. Basically, it's not just movies, but TV shows, some games, comic books, and I got my man Zuplex with me. It's just the two of us today.
What's
Uh,
going on, GGEN?
kind of like a bunch of different news that came out today for Star Wars. We're gonna definitely go into Halo because I got some ish to say, if you will, and then we got a couple of trailers that just came out, and the big news, the big surprise today was She-Hulk. Our first real look at She-Hulk came out today, so we kind of got a lot to say
Full
about that.
trailer.
Before we jump into it, cheers! I got my
Full
proper 12 ready to go.
High West myself.
I'm thinking it's been nothing but proper 12 for me for a while, and I'm thinking about making a change once I'm done with this one, switching over to something different.
Any
But I don't know what yet.
recommendations?
Yeah, clearly, I'll have to come to you. You got plenty. So where do you want to start, man? We got there's a couple of Star Wars announcements: Halo, Prey, The Boys season 3 trailer, and She-Hulk trailer. I see you got the Rangers hat, which I wish I had my own hat. I look terrible
Let's
in
go
hats. So.
Rangers, baby.
For any sports
Oh,
fans out there, series 2 or round 2, I should say, the playoff starts tomorrow. So our boys in blue need to come out strong, need to come out firing. I'm amped
on
for
the
the series,
Hurricanes.
and
On the Hurricanes.
I'm actually going to be recording myself watching the games. I feel like I can't help but just jump up and down. I get too into it. So yeah, literally on Game 7 on Sunday, I kind of had an epiphany and said, "Why am I not recording this? I'm like an animal. Let me get this on camera and share this with the GGEN group." So that'll start with round 2 against the
That's
Hurricanes.
it. Hurricanes, baby. Where do you want to start? You want to start with Prey?
Yeah, let's start with Prey.
Just
Let me pull up the
teaser?
trailer. It's a short teaser, but kind of worth giving a look. So as I pull up this trailer here, what are your thoughts just overall on the Predator franchise? For those who don't know, Prey is the name of the next Predator movie, and it's coming out on Hulu this year. Actually, what did it say? I think like June or July or August. It's coming out soon.
Something like that. I'm a big fan of the Predator franchise. I think they're a lot of fun. The movie's been a lot of fun. In like Aliens vs Predator 2, even though it was like a pretty terrible movie, it was still a lot of fun.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
last one I really enjoyed, even though it got a little weird with like the supersized Predator thing.
Well, so you know what's funny? I was saying this to Steve actually yesterday. I'm a big fan, big fan of the Predator movies. I think that just overall the concept really is just a home run, and it still is after all these years. The design of the Predator is crazy, and the one mistake I feel like Hollywood keeps making, which is we could talk about this for any property they work with, is that they keep thinking they have to like upgrade or update the Predator, and they don't. Like we like the way it
Not at
looks.
all.
It's intimidating. The original Predator from the original movie with Schwarzenegger is intimidating. To this day, it's still a scary thing to look at. There's no reason to add more technology or anything like that. The movies really need to focus more on the humans, wherever the time set is and all that stuff, trying to fight this thing. That's what we're interested in. So they keep trying
Which
to like update it and give it this new thing, make it bigger, like in the new Predator. Then they gave the human character that his like Iron Man suit basically, so he could fight Predator. Like we don't need any of that stuff. So this new
um,
teaser. Did you watch the teaser by the way that came out for
I
Prey?
did, I watched it,
What'd you
and that's
think?
kind of like I agree with you, and that's why I'm a little bit worried about this version
Yeah,
Predator that we're getting because it looks like it's a pre not maybe not a prequel but it's
yeah. I
set
guess it's
in
like sort of a sequel. And August 5th is when it comes out.
I guess there's no real timeline with the Predators because they could jump around so much because they've been coming to Earth hunt
Right, for
forever.
who knows how long, right?
So it's not like they keep hunting the same people. So it's not really a timeline. It's just different points in time that they
Right.
are showing us. But if they're gonna focus on the human aspect of it, like not having real like I don't know. There wasn't a lot in the teaser trailer, so it's
Yeah,
hard to
teaser
tell
trailer was
which
real
direction they're
quick.
going in.
My thing is, I think the idea of seeing the predator doing its hunting, but like back in like the old school times, just Native Americans trying to fight this thing, and we're watching those kind of primitive weapons go at it with the predator. It kind of calls back to in the original Predator when Schwarzenegger basically had no weapons and was just making traps and trying to outsmart it. So I love the idea of pushing it back to that point. The fact that they call it Prey instead of Predator is scary to me because that tells me they're trying to almost like rebrand a little bit. And what does that mean exactly? Does that mean that they're again gonna like enhance the Predator or try and give it some sort of different look or different mythology?
I don't know if they're gonna try and enhance it. They might try and de-hance it.
See, but that I don't mind. Like
so long ago that he's using more primitive weapons, maybe.
I mean, we do see the laser on the person, so he's got some of his advanced weaponry. Yeah,
maybe more primitive than what we've seen from them. But to your point, yes, I did get a big feel of like the first Predator, where Schwarzenegger is using traps and trying to outsmart him and all this other stuff. But that movie had Schwarzenegger.
Right.
Who's in this movie?
No one can deliver. So now this is the one thing. So a couple of things for me is with the Predator in general. One thing I've always been kind of fascinated by is this idea that the Predator is it's not about like some sort of sociopathic like I just need to kill. It's a pride thing, and to me, to have this alien creature that's doing this for sport and has a respect for those who can fight back and all that stuff is one of the best aspects of the character. So I love that idea. I love that idea, especially in the first Predator, and that's one of the things I liked most about the Adrian Brody Predator, because that one I think is underrated. I think it's a really good follow up to Predator overall.
I really like that one.
I love that one. I love it.
Race.
Yes,
being a serial killer.
Yeah, like that one was. I remember seeing it in theaters. I've watched it a few times since then, and every time I'm like, this movie really is good, and I don't feel like anyone gives it any love. But one thing I don't like is that, not that I don't like it. How do I word this without getting in trouble? I feel like what was cool is Schwarzenegger being this big powerhouse of a person going toe to toe with this Predator, and then ever since then they've kind of shrunk the hero and almost kind of continue to give you like a smaller and smaller hero that has to use more of his brains. I kind of like the idea though of this like bulky guy who's more of like brawn, just kind of going toe to toe with this thing, and that's kind of what I was hoping for the next one.
We only saw that in the first Predator. So if you
really think about it, so go back to it. Right, it was Danny Glover. That's right. Yeah, it was. You got Danny Glover. Then you go to Adrian Brody, and then you go. I can't remember the actor's name, but the bad guy from Logan and his son essentially, and like. Listen, every Predator movie has something to like about it. I feel like they have the humor, they have the action, but I don't know. I feel like they haven't nailed down the hero or the human character as well as they did with Schwarzenegger. The closest being Adrian Brody. I thought his character was actually really well done in that movie.
I thought that whole cast in the Adrian Brody one was good because you had all of these. It was a new concept for us. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Transported a bunch of savage killers.
Right.
To a planet where the predators could hunt them. It was like kind of them stocking the fields a little bit, which was a cool idea.
A great idea. I really love that movie.
Absolutely. I thought it was a great idea for a different concept to it, at least. You know what I mean? To where at least the predator wasn't coming to Earth and whatever.
It was a good twist, too, that it was still the jungle setting, but on an alien planet. So there's still that factor of fish out of water for all the human characters.
Exactly. Plus, the human characters didn't know each other, so they're still trying to figure everybody else out.
Right.
Just why, and when the Topher Grace thing happens, you're just, oh wow! Like I didn't even think of why was the doctor there the whole time, and that and the other thing, and it was a really good twist. I thought it was a good way of changing up the franchise a little bit.
I agree.
This one, again, we haven't seen a lot from the teaser, so I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's any real. I guess the main character is going to be the Predator.
Well, so that's what I'm scared about, right? Are we gonna? So the Predator is one of those characters where it doesn't need to be demystified. One part that's scary about it is the fact that we don't know anything about it. All we know is that it's got some advanced weaponry, it can go invisible, and its sole purpose is to just hunt you down and kill you and take your skull and spine. So like to me, that's enough. I don't need to know. That's again another mistake that I feel like the other sequels kept trying to do was like almost make you sympathize with the Predator a little bit, or kind of give us hints at
lore.
like we don't really need that with the character. I blame the comics, to be perfectly honest, because the comic books did that, and successfully did it. And some studio exec was like, oh, let's make that into the movie, but it works in the comics. I don't know that it works so well on the screen.
I mean, it depends though, because like even in Predator 2, when Danny Glover finds the ship and you get that cool shot of them finding the xenomorph skull.
Yeah.
That's a big payoff.
But see, now that, well, yeah, I guess that's the kind of world building I'd prefer. Instead of learning more and more about how the predators, the hierarchy of the predators, I'm more concerned with what are they hunting when they're not hunting people on Earth or humans.
Exactly.
Which you do get a hint of in Predator 2. You get a hint of it in Predators with Adrian Brody. But like the idea, I think in the last Predator where you had kind of like the smaller Predator and he was, kind of like the crappy, like, the hero Predator that was trying to save humanity or give him a weapon to fight the Predators. I'm like, oh, okay, no, that's messed up. I do think, as a side note, I do think another Alien versus Predator movie, again, that's a storyline that's like ready to just explode. You know what I mean? If they just do it right, if they just take the time to really think it through, it could be an easy franchise. But
100%.
Buttersworth says, Buttersworth says Predator 2 instant classic, and Danny Glover wasn't too old for that shit. Yeah. I don't remember now. I haven't seen Predator 2 in so long if he ever says that line. But
I mean, I've rewatched it over the years. It's good, man. I gotta admit, it's good. Oh, there's a lot of like weird parts to it.
Yeah, but again, anything with the Predator in it's going to be entertaining. I feel like, you know what I mean. It's almost like a can't fully miss kind of character.
Like, what do we want to see? We want to see him blow people up and people and dismember people and set traps and do all this other stuff. And
I guess you got to find interesting takes. Like the one thing about Predators with Adrian Brody that I liked was that every single one of them was capable of fighting back. You know what I mean? Whereas in the first Predator, I guess they were all capable, but none of them could really come to terms with what it was until it was almost too late. I like how, like one of my favorite scenes, and I still remember getting chills when it happened in theaters, was when the Yakuza guy in Predators basically says, all right, I'm not running anymore. He takes his sword out and challenges it to a one-on-one and gets killed, but does some damage. I was so amped for that scene, Plus,
that scene is crazy in that movie. I love that scene.
Like the intensity in that scene, like it's a good freaking scene. And plus, any movie with Walton Goggins in it is just fantastic because he's just such a good actor. So.
Such a good actor.
But yeah, so Prey coming out on Hulu exclusively August 5th this year. I don't even know if they should put out another trailer. They should just leave this teaser and then just let the movie come out and see what happens. Although I guess they need to build up some fanfare for the movie. But let's move on. Let's go to let's go to Halo only because I just fucking hate Halo. So let's just go ahead and talk about Halo. Let's get it out of the way. I was calling this behind the scenes Halo 9.5 weeks, the Halo version, because for anyone who doesn't know, the cat's out of the bag at this point. Master Chief not only has a sex scene in this one with Maki or however they say her name, Mr. Magoo we were calling her, but Cortana creepily just watches the sex scene and is clearly jealous or something of this character banging Master Chief. So at least that's what it seemed like to me.
Show is officially off the rails.
Off the rails. Not even like they have no idea what the fans really want from a show like this.
This whole show has Paramount studio exec stink all over it. Mm-hmm. It just shows that they 100%. Have no idea what the fans of the franchise want, and they're hitting notes, right? They're hitting all of these notes that work in all of their Paramount movies and all their Paramount stuff.
It's just so true.
Like that.
So true.
And they're like, well, we have to have a love scene. It's a Paramount movie. Like, we have to have a love scene. There has to be one. Like, who's the love interest? He's got to have a love interest. No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Just Hollywood in general needs to get past this like need for every single movie to have a love interest and to have some sort of romance angle. We don't need that. Look at Shang-Chi. There was no love angle there.
Mandalorian.
Look at the Mandalorian. No love angle. Well, I guess the love is between Grogu and Mandalorian, but there's no real
Even
like
still,
romance plot. You know what I mean? We don't need it. They keep trying to force this, and it's just brutal. It's just brutal. Honestly, it's ridiculous.
insane. Like this whole season of the show has just had like studio. We need a B storyline with
Yeah.
Quan Ha. Like we need another storyline because how else are we gonna fill episodes? We got to do 9 episodes. Can't do 6. Can't.
It's
Got to do 9
absolute trash.
episodes. Have to do this. We have to hit these beats. But we'll build the story. We'll build the story.
You always hear about these executives who are like, we need the what do they call it? The human character that fans can latch onto, so that they can kind of enter the world fresh, just like this character does. No, we don't. I still maintain, and this is for any property that already exists in a certain medium and they're trying to bring it to the big screen. If you make the movies for the fans of the original property, it will be, or the show, it will be good enough that it will draw in people who never read the original property. And then those people will go and read the original property. Walking Dead is a perfect example. I never read the Walking Dead comics. I don't even know if I ever heard of the Walking Dead comics. By the end of
100%.
season 2, I ran out and bought the first however many 80 issues, whatever it was, because the show was just so good. I said, I gotta know what's coming in the coming up. You know what I mean?
It's a perfect example.
It's just ridiculous.
Because, like, even if you look at it like nowadays, right? Like everybody thinks Walking Dead was like this massive like comic. It wasn't. It was so small.
No.
It's so small.
Right.
That's why Walking Dead #1, like a first print of that book, is so expensive now.
Right.
Is they didn't print that many because it was a small run of a comic, of an indie comic that no one was reading at the time.
Right.
Gained some groundswell. People started enjoying it. People started liking it. Grew naturally. Grew organically. They made the show, and then it really blew up. Then everybody wanted to read the comics. Everybody was going buying backlogs of omnibuses and all this other stuff.
Right. My brother's a perfect example.
How you do it. And then they ended up butchering that too.
But. Well, my brother is not a comic book person. He's not. I mean, like he's not like a zombie person. He really doesn't like. He likes sci-fi stuff, but not as much. Like not like me. You know, I'm like a big dork and all that stuff. He's not as much into that stuff. He's more of the sports guy. He's more of like the down to earth kind of guy. But Walking Dead, the show, was so good that he owns more Walking Dead stuff than I do. Like and to your point, the comic blew up after the show blew up. You know. I'm trying to think, like, even Harry Potter is another example. The movies were made for people who knew the books, and the movies were so good because of that, and that created more fans who wanted to go read the books. I mean, you can go down the list for all these things. You know, the Star Wars, most of the movies. Marvel's a great example.
There was a point where the last Harry Potter book wasn't out yet, and they're still doing the movies for the first, 4 books or something like that. Made the book 5 and 6 of the series blow up
100%. I remember
they had so many people interested in the property at that point.
I was working retail at the time, and I remember I think I worked at Best Buy, and at the time they sold books. We got the books in, and I basically took a copy and was in the appliance department reading it days before it released because I just needed to know what happened, you know. But and Halo is just a frustrating example. It's a game, I should say, that shouldn't really require a lot of effort to make a good show. And
it really should.
They're putting in more effort to ruin it. And it's frustrating.
It's amazing.
Mr. Buttersworth says Preacher is another example. It's a great show and a great comic. That is a great example because I never heard of it.
Oh, of course.
Then I watched the show. The show was awesome. So I went to read the comic. You know, it's like one hand feeds the other if you just do it the right way.
That's what it comes down to. It's just because, and it's because the studio execs aren't affiliated with Disney or Fox.
Right.
Even give Warner Brothers, even though they screw up all the time. We know what trash DC is at this point. But these studio execs, they have to, they think they're the smartest guys in the room when it comes to Paramount's been making movies forever.
Right.
We made The Godfather.
Right. And they think, we know what we're doing, then listen to us.
We know the movie business. This is how we know the television business. We've been making this stuff for decades. For 100 years we've been making it. Blah, 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 blah. And they put out this stuff, and everybody's like, what are we watching?
Right.
I
Right.
watched that episode and I was just like, what is this? This isn't
Oh,
Halo.
it's a
None of
frustrating.
this has anything to do with Halo.
It's a frustrating thing. You know, it's not. You know, it's missing the mark when even someone like me who isn't doesn't know the game's lore that well understands that they're fucking up. You know what I mean? The sex scene was bad enough, but then they spent all season pointing and zooming in to that fingernail lightsaber that Maquis had, and for what? Just so that she could pull it out. I guess that was a big moment to show she trusted humans. I mean, you knew she was going to turn on them anyway. I think next week is the finale, and I said this to Steve. It's like season 2 has already been greenlit, and I find myself kind of just counting down the days until season 1 is over. Not because I'm excited for the finale, just because I'm excited to not have to watch it anymore. And
Wouldn't be surprised if they pull back and don't give us season 2. Even
I wouldn't be either, because they might be saying it's performing so well, but we all know it's not really performing that well. Buttersworth says
no one's saying anything good about it.
Buttersworth says Preacher was such a great show because Seth Rogen took control of the show, and that's what Halo needed. No, that's actually a good point though, because Seth Rogen he took control of the show because he's a fan of the comics. Excuse me. Like he's a fan of the comics first, and then he's making the show second. And that gives me hope about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because again, he grew up with those characters, he grew up with that property. So for him, it's like, let me not let somebody butcher it. Let me take it. I know what I'm doing, and then I'll make something that fans love.
Exactly.
But yeah. So
I mean, it's just a miss all around, and like I said, it's just
big time.
It's crazy to me, because it's like you could tell that it's got that studio exec stink all over it, because they were in a meeting and they were like, well, we can't just call him Master Chief the whole time.
Yeah, what's his real name?
Give him a name. All right, what's something everybody will John? Let's call him John. Call him John, and we'll keep it mysterious because we won't give him a last name. Call him John.
And you just know for a fact somebody behind the scenes was like, well, he doesn't really take his helmet off, and some bigwig was like, well, what are we supposed to do? Pay some actor and not show his face? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
100% the conversation that happened.
Steve actually made a good point. So we keep talking about how don't take the mask off. You can still portray your emotions, whatever. And we keep using what examples? The Mandalorian, Dredd. We keep talking about those same two. The best example though of an actor, and this is like a well-known actor with a recognizable face who took a role and didn't show his face once. Hugo Weaving in V for Vendetta. How great of a movie is that? We do not see his face once. We hear his voice. Everything else is physical, and it's one of the most charismatic performances in the entire movie. So you can't tell me that. And the mask is stupid, yes. And he made it work. His dialogue is pretty on the nose, like the Wachowskis wrote it. You know what I mean? So they don't know how to write subtle dialogue. They write very specific, very obvious dialogue, and yet
they didn't direct it, right?
Correct. And yet Hugo Weaving took that and turned it into this phenomenal performance, this memorable performance that to this day people still quote. So you can't tell me that you can't do it with Master Chief.
That was another one that paid perfect fan service to the actual books. V for Vendetta,
right.
That was page for page. It's probably one of the most accurate
comic
book movies as far as to the actual property.
Right.
Probably next to Watchmen.
And I don't know that anybody has a complaint on how they adapted it. Anyone who knows the comics, or I guess it was a graphic novel more than anything, anyone who knows the property knows the movie did a phenomenal job adapting to the big screen. And yet here we are all these years later with our first real video game live action show adaptation, and they started off strong and then just took a nosedive, and it's just getting worse and worse.
I almost want to say they didn't even start off strong.
But you know what though? That's how bad the show is, right? It's gotten so bad that it's ruining the first episode.
It's gotten so bad that even that first episode, looking back on it now, I'm looking back through sour grape lenses. You know what I mean? Where I'm just it wasn't that good.
And think about that. We're clinging to the first 15 to 20 minutes of or let's say the first half hour. Let's give it a half hour of the first episode. We're clinging to the last 15 minutes of episode, I don't know, 5 or 6, whatever it was.
I swear to God, I will almost put money on it. There's not a huge battle at the end.
Honestly, because like I thought of this last night. They had that big battle, like big not battle, the big fight scene at the end of last episode. So for anyone who watched the episode, or if you didn't watch the episode, basically Dr. Halsey decides she's going to take over the UNSC or something. I don't know. I was half paying attention. She activates the 2 Spartans that didn't remove their emotion chips and made them go after Master Chief. And there was like a hand-to-hand fist fight, the 2 of them versus him, and he didn't even have his armor on. Big fucking shocker. And he was getting his ass beat.
Why would he? He hasn't worn it the whole season.
No, instead he was dressed like Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe. But so that fight scene was pretty fun and all that kind of crap. But like, it's literally like saying, it's the best piece of crap out of a giant mound of turds. It's just none of it is that good, and I don't know that they can right the ship by the end of the season. They have one more episode, and unless this next episode is some giant battle on the Halo, and like we get literally 40 minutes of just Covenant versus Spartan like battles,
I think that's what we're gonna get, bro.
No, we're not, because by the end of it, Master Chief is being captured. Like,
Halo, and like him and Miki or whatever her name is, they're gonna embrace each other.
Mickey's close enough. Who knows? Who gives a shit?
And Miki are gonna like brace each other to weld the things back together.
Yeah.
And it'll end like that.
She's gonna decide she loves him so much that she's gonna save humanity. Like, get the. Oh my gosh, Cortana's gonna express her love for him, and basically reveal that she was masturbating to them having sex. It's so frustrating. The show is just so annoying. Buttersworth says Master Chief should have made love with the helmet on. That would have been an Emmy performance. What would have cracked me up, honestly, and it wouldn't have surprised me, is if he's got his helmet off for most of the season, his armor off, and like right before they go to bang, he's like, hold on 1 second, and he puts just the helmet on. And we just have a scene of him naked with just the helmet on banging her. I would have been like, you know what? Fuck this show. I would have turned it off, and I would never watch it again. But
I don't want to watch it anymore. Now I'm pot committed, so I got to watch the finale.
That's what I feel like too. Where pot committed is a good way to say it.
I'm not excited. Like I'm like literally just gonna like watch this because I have to at this point. Like,
no, but honestly, pot committed is the right way to say it. We have just no choice.
Yeah.
We've got all our chips in. This is it. All in or nothing. Just finish it up. So that's our take on Halo Episode 8. And think about this, though.
Halo dumpster fire.
Think about how upset we are, and this is the penultimate episode. This is supposed to set up the finale. We should be coming out of this episode like, yo, this next episode is going to be crazy. And both of us are just like, yeah, I guess we got to watch one more. That's just brutal. It's just brutal.
It's so bad, man.
All right, we're going to move on to something that I enjoy. Let's talk. Let's go with Star Wars. Just a couple of announcements. There's no episodes to talk about here. But for anyone who doesn't know, Vanity Fair just released a cover and a whole article about the future of Star Wars. We got So basically, the next show, obviously, we all know is Obi-Wan. At the end of this month, May 25th is when it starts. I don't even know how many episodes that is. I'm sure it's online somewhere. Is it 8?
10 days.
What'd you say?
10 days.
10 days. Next week, Obi-Wan starts. Oh, wait, real quick. Buttersworth says, I'm so glad I haven't watched one episode of Halo. I had a feeling that they were going to butcher that show. They did more than butcher it, man. They put it through a meat grinder and fucking made some burgers out of it, and then didn't even feed it to humans. They fed it to some dog somewhere in a street.
I feel like we got to force the captain to watch the whole series because we had to sit through it.
Right. It's only fair. It's only fair that the captain has to sit through that garbage. At least he could binge it, though, and get it done in 2 days.
Yeah.
But anyway, so back to Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy in an interview recently, today actually, just basically revealed that, or it was printed today, that Star Wars is going to be focusing on, instead of just individual trilogies, more of an ongoing storytelling, similar to the way MCU does it, where the shows and the movies are all telling one cohesive story and building towards different plot lines and stuff. I am all for that. However, I feel like it kind of scares me a little bit, because it's kind of like that. Just because the MCU did it doesn't mean everyone else has to do it. I do think Star Wars is a property big enough to handle it if they do it the right way. And it seems like they're taking their time to do it right, but apparently they basically put a hold on all the movies that they had planned because they wanted to get the shows going and kind of come up with this strategy for long-term storytelling, which is huge.
I think after the debacle that was Solo, right? Which I didn't hate the movie. Like, Didn't do
I
great.
still, and I will defend it. Solo is an excellent movie. It's an excellent Star Wars movie. It's an unnecessary movie. We just didn't really need it. It's a great movie. It's really a good movie, but we just didn't need it.
Super difficult to have a new actor come in, play a young Harrison Ford when we still have Harrison Ford.
Well, now that's the other thing. Kathleen Kennedy, they flat out asked her, "Are we going to be recasting characters?" Because there is a Lando show coming that's supposed to be coming at some point, and
Donald Glover.
Well, that's what it was. That's what the rumor was originally. But she flat out said they're clearly learned their lesson from Solo. They are not going to recast any people who can come back essentially. So. Okay. Is that good or bad? Because in the Solo movie, the only person that basically was praised for his performance was Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian. So, I mean, you could have gotten away with it if it was him. You know what I mean? But
I think so. That's going to be the exception to her rule, though.
I hope it is, or I could see them essentially doing like a Lando's grandchild or something, and maybe not him, but whoever they bring in to be that person, they'll bring Lando in. Billy D. Williams, and then bring in a new character for him to kind of pass the torch to.
Realistically, if they did use him as a young Lando Calrissian, right, don't need to bring in any of the other characters because they could just do a show revolving around him.
Which is what I think they should do, if I'm being honest.
100%.
You can even use him as a flashback, right? You can have both. You can bring Billy D. Williams in to play the current Lando, maybe telling his story to his future children or something like that, and then flash back to different scenes, different things we've never seen with Lando, and have Donald Glover play the young version of him. So, but we got.
You've said it.
Sorry,
you said it before that we don't need to see everything revolve around Skywalker and Palpatine.
Right.
And I agree with that 100%. There's so much property there. There's so much real estate that they can spread out to. Don't need to focus on hyper focus on this one aspect of the universe. There's so many different directions that they go in, which is why I think MCU style of doing this. Let's be honest, they were doing MCU style before MCU was MCU.
Right. Absolutely, they were doing
it. They were really the first ones to have a complete and utter shared universe across multiple properties,
Yeah, the problem was at the time you didn't get you didn't know it really because they weren't. Not everything was as marketed. You know what I mean?
Some stuff was in books, some stuff. It wasn't all on screen in front of you, so you had to go searching for it. Whereas now, they can really flesh all this stuff out. There's so many different stories. I would love to see a live action Bad Batch.
I would love to see a live action Bad Batch. That'd be unbelievable.
You know what I mean? I think that would be a really cool thing to do. You know what I'm saying? Even if you did Star Wars Rebels, if you did any of these cartoons.
Well, I like the idea of bringing the characters from those cartoons into the live action realm, which they've slowly been doing. I think even as bad as Book of Boba Fett was as a Boba Fett fan, they did a good job of just bringing Cad Bane in and bringing Black Chrysanthemum, and just kind of almost confirming that these shows, these cartoons, are canon and will have a role to play going forward. You know what I mean? So I love that about it. And to your like I said before, and you mentioned that I've said it before, but I am a big believer in the fact that it's a detriment to Star Wars if everyone is tied back to a Palpatine, a Skywalker, even a Kenobi. Don't get me wrong. Don't yell at me, Star Wars fans. I love that the Obi-Wan Kenobi show looks good. I'm excited to see Vader back. But I'm of the opinion that after this show, Vader should continue to be a presence, especially in that time frame. But instead of having him as a main character or giving us more and more of his backstory or whatever he was doing during that time, let him be almost like a phantom, that the legend of Vader. I mean, we always hear about how everyone was scared of Vader. The name was whispered because people were afraid. His scene in Rogue One is what we need to see more often. Just this monster that's just coming at you and you can't stop him. I
think there's a world where even though we're talking about not doing the Skywalkers and the Palpatines, but I think there's a world where you give us the Vader show.
Yeah.
Where he's just hunting down Jedi.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole
book about
comic
that
story arc.
Yeah.
Where he's just hunting down Jedi for issue upon issue upon issue. That would be an awesome show to watch. And it's got Vader in it, so you're linking it to the originals, but same point is like he's really not going up. He's not going up against Obi-Wan. He's not going up against Luke.
Right.
He's going up against Jedi that like you've never even heard of.
I feel like too. There's actually, I don't know if there's a book. I think it's called Dark Apprentice, and the book is about Darth Maul, and it takes place right before Phantom Menace. But it basically it's like his first real mission where he's told to hunt down a Jedi, and the whole book you're following this Jedi and a group of people who are trying to essentially report back to the council that the Sith are around, and Maul is just coming at him. There's a lot of properties there that are just worth it, that I just want to see on screen. You know, another good one, I forget what comic it is, my buddy Brian would know. You might actually know, but it's one where Darth Vader is basically given word that there's like a Jedi presence on some planet. He goes to investigate, and when he lands there, it's a bunch of Sith cultists who don't believe he's the true apprentice, that they clone Darth Maul and believe Maul's true apprentice. And the whole comic book, Vader and Maul go at it. Who doesn't want to see Vader and Darth Maul go at it? You know what I mean? But so like but now again, that's all kind of focusing on the Skywalker's bloodline. I think that one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of The Last Jedi is because it pushed us further away from the Skywalkers and Palpatines. And I think that movie is one of the best Star Wars movies out there.
I want to disagree with that, but you could use the Skywalkers, Palpatines, and everything like that to expand the universe.
Oh, 100%.
Really centered around them. Like, you can, even if the next movie we get, like, Rey training Jedi, and it's about the new Jedi that she's training, then it's, we still have that aspect of the overall like family still being in there, but at the same point, it's all about where you focus everything. Like if you do a Vader show where he's hunting down Jedi, and the show's not really about Vader, it's not really about the Skywalkers, it's about Jedi and like them trying to like get away from most dangerous force in the universe.
That I would take hands down. Like, you can call it Vader if you want, Vader season 1, 2, 3, and 4, but make the show about other people and have Vader just this presence that just at the end of every episode, it's like he's all of a sudden he's there in the background and you're like, this fucking guy won't leave me alone. I would love that. I would love it so much.
Turn Vader into like the Mike Myers.
Right. Yeah. Just like this killing machine. You don't have to give him any lines, you just have him coming, you don't
even have to have him give him much screen time.
Right. We have so they announced basically a few things. We have basically, we got Obi-Wan starting. We have the Andor show, which is basically or Andor. I'm sorry. And it's basically a prequel to Rogue One, just giving us what Cassian Andor was doing. They basically revealed today that the storyline is essentially about his found home and how the Empire comes and not just takes it over, but like establishes dominance in a physical and kind of violent way. We have The Mandalorian Season 3, which actually they're saying is meant to be coming out this year. And they're thinking maybe December, same time frame as Book of Boba Fett. Ahsoka, which is going to follow up on what we saw from the end of The Mandalorian Season 2 and her quick scenes in Book of Boba Fett. That's coming out early next year at some point. You figure maybe like March or so. And then we got, like I said, we have a Lando show in the works. We have not a Bad Batch, but we have like a clone army kind of show in the works as well too at some point. And then Boba Fett's supposed to come back. We don't know when he's going to come back, but he's supposed to come back. And then at some point they're going to announce more movies. They basically confirmed Rian Johnson was working on his own trilogy. They basically put that on hold. Kevin Feige has been hinting that he's working on his own trilogy, or not hinting, just kind of confirming it. But Kathleen Kennedy flat out said that there's nothing in the works right now, that she can't wait to see what he has to offer. But, they don't have anything in stone yet, so we don't know if that's coming. The only thing that we know is coming is Taika Waititi is definitely working on his own Star Wars movie, and so is John Watts. So John Watts, for anyone who doesn't know, is basically the guy behind the Spider-Man trilogy.
That's why he left Fantastic Four.
Right, because he's working on Star Wars. And he's doing a Goonies-style coming-of-age tale in the Star Wars universe, which sounds like just a home run to me.
I'm with it. Like, listen, man, like, at the end of the day, it's Star Wars, so we're gonna watch it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, for me, I'm a fanatic. I have the tats. This is, as a Star Wars fan, I never thought I'd live in a world where we're just going to be bombarded with Star Wars stuff. And I didn't feel the fatigue that the movies were, that everyone kind of said with the movies coming out. But I was loving it. But, I did think that Solo was not a necessary movie. So, I'm not against them kind of hitting pause on it and just kind of going, let's kind of regroup and just rethink of what we're doing,
One of the things that the new movies did really well, and I think that Solo is going to do really well for us, is show us why the Empire is evil.
Yes.
Because, watch the original trilogy and the prequels, you never really get an understanding of, why the Empire is evil. Right?
That's a
You're
good
just
point.
told that they're evil.
No, that's a good point.
You're just... you never really see why they're evil. You don't see them invading planets and killing people, and all you're just told is all right, those are the bad guys. We're the good guys.
See now but that's always been one of my kind of complaints, and this is one of the reasons why I don't understand why people were hating on the sequel trilogy so much, specifically The Last Jedi. We didn't get a lot of information about Palpatine in the original trilogy. If you watch the original trilogy to this day, there's no information about Palpatine. We're told he's Darth Vader's boss. You got to be scared of him. That's it. We didn't get a lot of information about Vader. Listen, he's an intimidating looking presence, but he didn't really do much. He choked out one person over through a computer monitor, and then he beat Luke a few times. But as far as being this villain that everyone should be scared of, we didn't see that. Boba Fett, there was no information about him, and if anything, he got beat like a little pussy boy in Return of the Jedi. And so it's everyone wants to shit on these new movies or the prequels for, not giving us enough info. We didn't get that stuff. You were supposed to read the books, read the comics, and kind of gather that information. That was the whole point, So
the Last Jedi that starts with the stormtroopers with the flamethrowers.
The Last Jedi, no, that's Force Awakens.
Force Awakens,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, that scene where they're mowing down a village, setting it on fire, you're like, that's why the Empire's evil.
Right.
Oh,
right.
Now I get it.
Right. People
anything like that.
People don't give J.J. Abrams enough credit for how well he created The Force Awakens. I mean, to this day, I would argue that The Force Awakens is one of the top Star Wars movies. It's 100% an homage to the ones that came before it. 100%. However, it brought everything that was, say, dated in the original movies and updated them to fit our current aesthetic. I mean, again, before The Force Awakens, we got hints that the stormtroopers used flamethrowers. At least we assumed they did because we saw villages on fire. But now we saw it. We saw them just flat out murder civilians for no reason. We saw fucking Kylo Ren. The first thing we see of him, he kills somebody in cold blood and then stops a blaster bolt midair and just holds it there the entire time he's interrogating and being like an asshole. Those are things we never saw Vader do. I'm sorry, people. We never saw Vader do it.
And we got a sense of what I never understood, even as a kid. Growing up with Star Wars, then getting older and everything like that. I never understood what the rebels were fighting for.
Right.
They never explain it to you.
No, they never do.
Movie.
You're just told the Empire's bad. Rebels are good.
Bad. We need to stand up to them and this, that, and the other thing, and blah blah blah.
Right.
Just but why are they bad? What are they doing?
Right. The only evil act they did was blow up Alderaan, and as far as we knew, it was just one general who did it.
They blow up Alderaan or whatever, and it's just but okay, yeah, they built a Death Star, can blow up any right. But my mind, growing up at one point, I was like, yeah, but everybody's trying to fucking kill him, so why wouldn't they build the biggest weapon that they could?
Right, right.
It's it's mutual destruction.
If you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Real quick,
it does make sense because it's just
Buttersworth. He said in the chat that Star Wars future is looking bright. To him, Solo explained the early years of Han, and Buttersworth needed that because in the movies they don't really explain it, which they don't. They give you enough story, enough hints at his backstory, but they don't actually flat out tell you his backstory. And
My
then
problem with Solo again is just the fact that like it's not the actor's fault. I don't remember the actor's name.
no,
It's not,
it's like Edrich, or it's hard to say his name.
yeah,
He's got a weird sounding name.
it's not his fault because he was given an impossible task.
Yeah, see now, but he did a great job though. He really did a good job in that movie. I think
he did, but I didn't care.
Well, yeah, I agree with that, and I think that I think his biggest problem, or the movie's biggest problem, though, is that they were explaining things that didn't need to be explained. Things like, you know,
like you said, it was a useless. It was a useless movie.
It was just useless. Like
part of that movie is him meeting Chewie for the first
like we
time.
didn't need to see the history of the dice that hung from the mirror. You know what I mean? We didn't need to see the origin of the Solo name. Like that was just dumb. You know, some cool things that we saw was how he got his gun. You know what I mean? That was just, and it was like kind of like almost an afterthought, but that's what makes sense to me. You know what I mean? The fact that, you know, he could speak Wookiee, which we always kind of assumed because he always could translate for Chewie, but we never heard. Like stuff like that is cool. A little world building and kind of show you how smart he is. But there was a lot of unnecessary shit that we didn't need.
The Kessel Run. Right.
Yes, and the Kessel Run was awesome. It lived up to the hype. I did not think they were going to do it in a way where I was almost like holding my breath. You knew he was going to survive, and yet there's a moment there where I'm like, and then you fucking the engine goes, and you're like, oh shit, that was awesome, you know.
I mean, listen, it was one of those ones that like I wanted to love it. Like I wanted it to be the best Star Wars movie ever. It had some really good points. Like he meets Chewie, like you said. Like we learned that he knows Wookiee. The Lando scene's amazing.
Yeah, Lando steals the show.
Kessel Run's phenomenal, but then like everything else in the movie, you're just kind of like, why am I here? Like,
I do feel like I still kind of hope they give us at least one more Solo movie, like kind of finish whatever story they were going to tell. One, because I want to see Ray Park back as Darth Maul, but two, on Disney Plus.
You can see him in Obi-Wan.
Well, I want to see Ray Park in live action, but I want to see, like, I wouldn't mind if they brought it to Disney Plus. Maybe do a Solo show and just kind of continue the story. Like that'd be kind of cool to me. Yeah. However, if the focus going forward is to kind of tell this giant story across movies and properties and build towards this like Avengers style kind of crossover, then I'm all for that. Buttersworth said, how about a Fallen Order in live action? I will say, I don't think, number one, we need a Fallen Order in live action, mainly because the games are already cinematic. So it's kind of like, what's the purpose? Like we're seeing it.
Games are more cinematic than a game.
Yeah. But I do think we're going to get Cal Kestis in live action. Listen, we're at a point now where you don't have to recast the character from the game because the game character is an actor. So he was great in the role in the game. Let him come into the Ahsoka show or something and join her. Buttersworth also said that his mom.
That's the kid that played. That's the kid that played Joker on Gotham.
Yeah, Joker on Gotham. He was in Shameless. He's a phenomenal actor. Phenomenal actor.
I think he'd be a good.
This is a funny story actually. Buttersworth said that his mom's water broke with him watching the OG trilogy. How funny is that? So Buttersworth is a clear fanboy of Star Wars. And then Buttersworth also says in the Star Wars movies in general, there's way too many holes. Now's the perfect opportunity to explain those holes. I do think there are a lot of, they're not holes. Like Star Wars, even from the original, was always about selling merchandise essentially. So the movies were designed to leave you with questions so that you go out and buy books and comics and toys and whatever to fill in the answers. So I think that's done on purpose, if I'm being honest. But now I think they could focus more on filling all the plot holes in on screen instead.
I think it was also just written like, okay, always seem to just drop you into a world.
Right.
They don't really explain, like we were talking about earlier. They don't explain why the Empire's bad. They just drop you in. They're like, the Empire's bad, Rebels good.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And just boom, boom.
They're like, you see the guy with all the black armor on? He's a bad guy. Be scared of him.
Yeah. So don't really do a lot of like world explaining in the Star Wars movies.
Right.
I think part of the mystique of it makes it cool,
That's what I think too, and I think there has to be some mystique in order to make it like scary or make it interesting and make you want to like ask questions and go out and buy the books and all that stuff. You have to have that mystique, but there's a balance though. We said that about what?
We said it about Boba Fett, that like the reason why 100%. Boba Fett was one of the greatest characters was because we didn't know anything about him.
Right. That made him cool. And the more, like, honestly, arguably, the more and more they show of Boba Fett, and the more and more they kind of answer questions about him, the worse and worse he gets. You know, he's become like a dork. In his own show, they made him like this cringy kind of old man who's past his prime, essentially. You know, I think it would have been better served to give us a Boba Fett show where they showed us him in his prime, like hunting down bounties, or at least that should have been the flashbacks. We should have seen him as the intimidating bounty hunter that he was, so it would kind of inform why he's so soft now, and it would be a big juxtaposition between the two characters, you know. But
now that you have Fennec, Cad Bane in live action, I think it sets up Bad Batch pretty well.
100%. 100% it does. I don't know that they're going to give us a Bad Batch show in live action, but I guarantee you that they're going to bring all those characters back. I feel like, especially because I think it's Dave Filoni, he's kind of behind a lot. He's like the big brain behind the shows overall. Like, he's the Kevin Feige, it seems like. For me, it seems like his goal is essentially to bring all these characters from the animated show, Bo-Katan, Cad Bane, Black Chrysanthemum, and essentially give them moments in live action, if not give them their own show at some point. You know, Ahsoka is a perfect example. He brought her into live action. They did it perfectly because he knows the character and all that stuff. And now she's getting her own show, and I'm as excited for her show as I am for Obi-Wan.
Oh, absolutely. So. And I think Book of Boba Fett's going to turn into like the bounty hunter show.
I think so too. That's what I think it's going to be.
If I had to guess, like season 2 is going to be more about like bunch of different bounty hunters and stuff like that.
Season 3, I guess, yeah. No, but I think that it's funny because in just 1.5 seasons, they turned this brand new character that was made for the show into.
Not Mandalorian. I'm talking about Book of Boba Fett.
Oh no, but yeah, I agree. I'm sorry. I'm looking at Pedro Pascal's pretty face and I got distracted. No, I agree. But that's what they should do though. I feel like Book of Boba Fett, they need to almost pull it back so much and not focus on him, focus on the world he lives in. You know what it is? Perfect example.
It was him becoming the crime boss, right?
Right. They gave that to us.
Bounty hunter.
Right. He's the crime boss now. Move on. Honestly, I think the right direction to take the Book of Boba Fett is similar to John Wick. The first John Wick movie focused on him. We got his backstory. We got his reason for jumping back into the assassin world, whatever. But ever since then, he might be our main character. But the movies have been about building out this world with the hotel and the, I forget what they call, Continental or whatever. And now we got the show. And like, I'm way more invested in that. I mean, the action scene is great and I'm glad he's there. But I'm more invested in what more we learn about the world around him that he inhabits. That's what the Book of Boba Fett should be. Let him be the daimyo or whatever he called himself and focus on characters coming to him and him working out these different problems and stuff. And being ruthless. That's one thing they didn't do. They wanted to make him too good of a guy. And you got to let him be a little ruthless. That's part of the character. What I was going to say about Mandalorian is that in 1.5 seasons, they took this character made for TV, brand new that nobody knew, and made him a better Mandalorian bounty hunter than Boba Fett. Right? What'd you say?
Isn't he in one of the cartoons?
No, he was created 100% for the show. Him and Baby Yoda. Him and Grogu.
Think he's in Rebels.
No.
He fights. An older version of him is in Rebels, and he fights Darth Maul, and Darth Maul takes the Darksaber off of him.
I'm looking it up right now.
Din.
When did the Mandalorian character... I'm looking it up right now. I'm looking it up live, so everyone who's watching the stream can see. Get created. Was first publicly described in a brief 3-sentence synopsis about the series that Forever posted on an account. Yeah. No, he was created for the show. He was never a character. Never a character beforehand. But that's a big question, though, right? How did Darth Maul get the Darksaber when Jin had it?
They showed Darth Maul getting the Darksaber in Rebels.
From who, though?
Din. Call him Din, and that's the Mandalorian's name when the... This might have been retconned. Maybe he was created, and then in season 2, when the guild names him, they call him Din.
I don't know. I'm trying to look it up now. Yeah. Let's see. Backstory: Mandalorian, birth name Din Djarin.
Din Djarin.
Though it's not revealed until the finale. Mandalorian. Helmet, season 1. I know the show, but when does he get introduced?
Well, here, Darth Maul. First,
No, it says he was created by Jon Favreau, the creator and showrunner of The Mandalorian. So he was created for the show.
And they named him in episode 8. I guess I must have seen something else then.
Yeah, no, he definitely wasn't. He was made for the live action show. I'm telling you, dog.
I'll succeed to you this time.
Yeah. Wait, when it comes to Star Wars, you got to give me the credit. I can't tell you what issue and comic and all that stuff, but I'm on top of my Star Wars shit. Anyway, we can move on because we've been talking about Star Wars forever, and I could talk about this for a long time. Obi-Wan starts May 25th. Make sure you guys watch it. One Shot and I will be doing some live reactions. Not live reactions, but our reactions will be shared on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube Shorts. We'll definitely be talking about the show on the Theater Room. Each episode, we'll kind of dissect it, break it down.
Absolutely.
I can't wait for that. I'm so amped for it. I know the show is going to be slower than like I have in my head. In my head, the entire 6 to 8 episodes are just going to be Obi-Wan and Darth Vader fighting, but that can't be the case. So I think we're gonna get a great show, honestly. And this might be the show that tops Mandalorian, or maybe knocks it off its pedestal as the best Star Wars show. Who knows? That might be saying a lot.
Or it winds up being just as bad as Boba Fett.
Or just as bad as Halo. Obi-Wan's gonna gonna have his hood off the entire time.
That far. Won't go that
Yeah, it can't be as bad as Halo. But yeah, so we got a lot to look forward to in the Star Wars world. So let's keep our eyes out on that. And let's move on. So the next thing that came out yesterday, I think it was, is The Boys Season 3 trailer. Our first look at Season 3.
This is one of my favorite comic book shows ever.
This show is so friggin' good. And this trailer is so friggin' good. I'm so excited for Season 3. And for anyone who hasn't kind of been listening, ScytheX and I have been talking for a while. When this show airs, it's a Prime Video show, which means Amazon owns Twitch. So what that means is we can do some live viewing watch parties. And I think we're going to do weekly watch parties to watch this show. With the GGEN crew, you guys can jump into. I don't even know how many people we can have max, but 100% I'm down for that. We're going to pick a night. We'll let everybody know. And then if you can, jump on and let's watch together. I'm so excited. This trailer reveals enough about the Season 3. We know that basically Karl Urban and his boys are going to be gaining the ability to get superpowers for 24 hours. And they're going to take the fight directly to superheroes. And the idea of Karl Urban's Billy Butcher getting superpowers so that he could actually just go toe-to-toe with Homelander is just one of the most giddy things I've ever heard in my life. I'm so excited about this. I really can't wait.
I'm excited over introducing Soldier Boy.
Soldier Boy looks good. Black Noir, it's been confirmed that we're basically going to get more info on him. If anyone knows the comics, you kind of know what the big twist is with him. I don't know if I want to reveal it. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter if I reveal it, but just keep an eye out because you're going to find out basically who's behind the mask. I'll just say that much.
They fly.
Yeah. All right. Well, so in the comic books, Black Noir is a clone of Homelander, but a way more psychotic version of Homelander. And Homelander's psychotic enough. I mean, the last season ended with Homelander masturbating over the city because he can do whatever the hell he wants. I mean, like, oh my gosh, this show is just nuts in the best way possible.
I love the show so much, man. And Soldier Boy being added in. Now, don't get me wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Soldier Boy is Homelander's son, right?
Yes, it's the son he doesn't know about.
Doesn't know he has.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's in the comics. I mean, they might change it for the show, but why would they? They haven't changed a lot. I mean, they've kind of carried over as much as they could from the show. So from the comics, I mean,
yeah. Oh, I'm excited for it. Jensen Ackles, I love him. I think he's a good actor.
Great actor.
I was, Supernatural was on for 11 years, something like that.
Right, and there's got to be a reason for it, right? You know what I mean? Like you can't. The show's not gonna last that long unless you have actors who know what they're doing. So.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm curious to know how they're going to top some of the craziness from the last season. Last season, we had heads exploding all over the place. We had a giant whale just pierced with a speedboat. I mean, we had Homelander melted the eyes, I think, at the end of season 1 of I can't remember her name now, Elizabeth Shue's character. I mean, just nuts. Just crazy, crazy stuff.
Had the twist with... mimic, but doppelganger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like pretending to be Elizabeth Shue's character,
Which is amazing. You know, I one of my favorite little comic book moments from season 2 was when they go to I think it's the ward that basically is housing the heroes that didn't get out, and the guy, I can't remember his name now, but the one who has the big dick, he could use his dick, he make his dick grow. You know, he uses that to choke out one of the heroes. Like, if you have not watched the show, if anyone has not watched The Boys, I urge you to catch up. I mean, in I think episode 1 or 2 of the first season, you go to a sex club with superheroes, and you watch as a little Ant-Man hero, tiny little person, jumps off a table into the vagina of some woman. Like, the show is beyond nuts. It's basically, the whole premise of the show is the Justice League are famous, but they're owned by corporations. So everything they do is recorded, is sold. They have merchandise, and they film movies themselves while also trying to save the world. And it's like if you gave the Kardashians superpowers, and they're that rich and ridiculous and out of touch with reality, and then they also could do whatever the hell they wanted because no one could really stop them, what kind of nonsense would they get into? That's the show. And we follow a group of people who just want to kill every superhero they see.
The reality of what would happen if there was really superpowers.
Right. No, that's really what it is.
Like, that's really what it comes down to. So, is that, like, if there was really superpowers, Disney would own their own superheroes. They would be monsters of people.
Now, one thing I'm interested to see is there was some behind the scenes drama with the guy who plays Homelander. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he was arrested. Anthony Starr, I think his name is. He was arrested for threatening to kill somebody. So I'm wondering if playing Homelander's gotten to his head a little bit, and he really thinks he's a superhero. I don't know if he's as bad as Ezra Miller, because he's been quiet since then, but he's up there. And it's fitting that...
Could have also been...
It's very fitting to me that the boys, what do they call? What is the superhero group name? The Seven. That's what it is. It's fitting to me that the Seven in the show, which is the Justice League, is meant to be a parody of the Justice League, and yet here we have Ezra Miller, who's on the Justice League, who's being an asshole, just like Homelander. I mean, you know, it's happening. It's happening in real life, people.
It's all coming full circle.
So the show is coming out soon. Let me see if I can get the date for you. What do we got here? It's got to come out quick. June 3rd. That is not too long from now. Only a couple.
We're gonna have
a couple of short weeks.
Obi-Wan, Miss Marvel, and the boys all on at the same time. I mean, that's going to be a lot to talk about every week. Phenomenal.
And right here in the theater room every Tuesday, we're going to be doing deep dives on every single episode. We give you our theories. I don't know if we're going to have a lot of theories about Miss Marvel because I don't really think that's going to tie in too much to things. But for the boys, I'm excited. I am excited to talk about it and to watch it. So definitely tune in with us on starting June 3rd. So whatever day that is, the following Tuesday, we'll give you till then. But then you got to watch the episode because we're spoiling everything. We're gonna talk about every detail we can. So, and then the last big announcement this week, today actually, this came out. This was actually a surprise announcement.
A couple hours ago.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was coming out today. Is She-Hulk? We got our very first full trailer of She-Hulk. We see her in all her glory. We see Tim Roth and Abomination. We see the Hulk himself, Mark Ruffalo, and we get an idea of the story. What'd you think? What'd you think of the trailer? I mean, you know the comic better than me. I know that She-Hulk is a big hint towards Secret Wars, but towards World War Hulk, I should say, not Secret Wars.
Towards World.
But what'd you think?
World War Hulk. She-Hulk. I mean, listen, the character has evolved over the years in the comics, and I think they're definitely pulling from the more recent.
Yeah, for sure.
Recent comics, and overall, I think it looks really good. The only problem I'm having is I think it's going to be fixed by the time the show comes out. But the CGI on her face does not look great.
Yeah. And it's
in the trailer, but
right.
I did hear multiple things about like having to go back in post and fix a lot of stuff, and that's why it took us so long to get a trailer in the first place.
Yeah,
a full trailer in the first place, and that's why like the teaser didn't show her face at all. She-Hulk.
Right. I mean, listen, so you can't blame them though. Like the amount of time and effort to create the Hulk and She-Hulk, and make them look believable, that they're really there and in this world and realistic facial expressions, the whole nine.
The issue is She-Hulk doesn't really transform.
Right.
Like, she makes a decision in the comics, and I think they're going towards that route also in this. She's just going to stay as She-Hulk.
That's what it seems like, yeah.
So if you're going to have that much screen time, her as She-Hulk, you got to nail that CGI on that.
Yeah, it's a big undertaking. I mean, to me, it's based off this trailer alone. It kind of seems like they probably should have thought about going the movie route with her. Yeah. We all know that Marvel's throwing a lot of budget towards these shows, but this might be a little bit more than they can chew. Although, so they got Mark Ruffalo down. I mean, his Hulk, they've been doing it for years, though, I guess, right? So they're still trying to fine-tune her.
They could basically pull up previously loaded.
Right. No, you're right. Like, they don't need to put a lot of effort into it, right? I'm sure the program's already there.
Don't think that's the final product.
I don't think so either. Really, well, listen, we're not the only ones saying it. If you look on the internet, everyone's saying the same exact thing. So Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, and Feige and all them are hearing this. So they're going to put their effort into it. It doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad by any stretch. For a TV show, full CG character, it's clearly top tier, one of the best looking things.
Oh, 100%.
But,
we're nitpicking.
Right. When you're comparing it to the MCU as a whole, it's a little wonky. You know what I mean?
First scene when she first show her face, it's a little jarring because you're like, something, I can't even put my finger on it, but something just doesn't look right.
Well, yeah, it's not even the uncanny valley, because when she's not like making a facial expression, really, when she's just kind of looking with like a normal face, it looks almost perfect. You know what I mean? Hold on, I'm trying to get to that scene so that people can see what I'm talking about. It really looks almost perfect. The problem is when she starts smiling or talking. It sounds like such a sexist thing to say, but when she starts smiling, it looks, animation. It looks like a CGI, like a Pixar film almost. It just doesn't look right. There's something a little off about it, and it could just be the lighting, it could be the skin texture. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Again, this is also something they could have fixed in post, and the final product might be completely different.
Right, but on the scene, I'm showing, it looks fine. She's looking straight at somebody, and it looks good. The action scenes look good. I mean, there is a little wonkiness in the one scene where I think her and Hulk are jumping. I guess he's kind of showing her how strong she actually is.
We're gonna get a little bit of that. There's a little bit of that in all of these shows.
Yeah,
like even WandaVision and Loki and all that.
Even stuff. In Hawkeye, you know what I mean? When you see them do a little bit of the unbelievable things, But
I think overall, like, I like they're going with it that she's gonna be a lawyer for superhumans. And this, that, and the other.
Love that. I love that. I love this like kind of like a lighthearted. I'm She-Hulk, but I'm still gonna dress in heels and be sexy and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's just a good twist on the character. I mean, not on the character, but on the formula.
That's kind of what the current or the more current comics were about. Yeah. Were like, she's still a woman. She's still going to be sexy and this, that, and she's going to make her new body like, I like body. What's the word? Body positivity.
Right. I am a little curious. Like, I mean, unfortunately, the show's not going to do much to get rid of these MCU people who want to complain about them pushing this like agenda. But I mean, listen, we can't have Mark Ruffalo's Hulk forever. They got to hand the mantle off to somebody. And in the comics, She-Hulk is a great character. And like I said, so for me, it hints more and more towards eventually a World War Hulk movie. We have our first look at some version of the Illuminati. We know Mark Ruffalo's Hulk's going to be here, and she's going to turn into the Hulk. To me, if the World War Hulk storyline is one of my favorite storylines of all time. I love the Hulk character in general, and I would love to see a live-action version similar to how we got Wanda as the villain of Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. I would love to see a movie where the Hulk is the villain, and we're just watching him tear through heroes and he could have his reasons. If they do a real Planet Hulk first and kind of give him the backstory, make it a 2-part World War Hulk kind of thing. Planet Hulk is part 1, and then the World War Hulk part is part 2. I would absolutely be down for that.
I'd be 100% down with World War Hulk.
100%. Yeah. Well, the point I'm trying to make is that introducing a new Hulk character means that there are plans. In my mind, it means that there are plans to expand the lore behind the Hulk persona essentially,
100%.
which to me hints
Now,
towards a possible World War Hulk movie at some point.
the big questions I have about is, I mean, maybe we get an answer to it by the end of She-Hulk, but he's Professor Hulk,
Right.
She-Hulk,
Right.
right? So we're led to understand that at Endgame, that's his new.
Right.
It's like he's always Professor Hulk now, right?
Right.
The end of Shang-Chi
Right.
is Bruce.
Well, so here's my theory. My theory is that in his experiments with her, he kind of stumbles across a possibility to separate the Hulk from Mark Ruffalo. I think what they're going to do is something where he somehow separates the personas and maybe accidentally creates this like version of the Hulk that's almost always the first Avengers version of Hulk, meaning like more rage-filled, can't control himself, is just angry, and that could lead to a possible like decision of like, we got to get him off this planet. He's gonna fucking go nuts and have an episode.
I got a
and
funny feeling we're only going to get him for one episode of this whole series, but
that's not a bad guess though. Maybe episode 1 she transforms or needs the blood transfusion or whatever the reasoning is, and he's there. He kind of hands it to her, and then maybe he's got to go off to do something, for the Avengers or for whatever.
I think he's going to train her for like 1, maybe 2 episodes, like teach her how to like handle her rage and this, that, and the other thing, and then
yeah,
going to wind up.
That's possible. And if we go by the way the shows have been, the trailers only really show us the first few like scenes from the first maybe 2 episodes.
Well,
so
this one went pretty deep because, like, I mean, there's a courtroom fight scene between her and Titania.
Is Titania the main bad guy?
From what I understand, yeah.
I mean, my guess is she's defending Blonsky, sort of right? She's
underhanded.
Now, what's interesting to see is that we see Blonsky is not Abomination. I mean, like, we see him as Abomination, but we also see him as Emil Blonsky. We see Tim Roth from the Incredible Hulk.
I think she's going to have to defend him.
But like, so in that movie, in Incredible Hulk, there was no hint that he could transform back to human form. You know what I mean? So that's kind of a question that they're going to answer for us.
Shang-Chi, he didn't transform when he went back in.
Right, he was full blown Abomination the entire time. So either they maybe built some sort of chamber that suppresses the Hulk gene or something.
I did hear that Wong's supposed to show up in She-Hulk.
That makes sense. Especially with his connection to Abomination and Shang-Chi.
That Charlie Cox is supposed to come back in She-Hulk.
That would make sense too, because she's a lawyer. She probably needs help with people who can, defend.
He's a lawyer.
Yeah.
Just got the Echo news today, so it's like.
That's the other thing. I mean, we got our first look at Echo, which is just a still image, but still, it's good to see that they're going to continue that storyline. We got another look at Thor: Love and Thunder with, hot ass Natalie Portman as Thor, the mighty Thor. I mean, she packed on so much muscle. She looks so good with that muscle. Oh my god, man! But we got an image of her and Tessa Thompson, and I mean, honestly, I'm almost more excited to see jacked Natalie Portman as Thor than I am to see Chris Hemsworth back as Ravager Thor. Like, it just looks awesome.
As much as I can't stand these MCU guys, there is like something going on right now where it's like getting rid of Hulk, they're getting rid of Thor, they're replacing them with their female counterparts.
Well, I feel like they're following the comics, though. You know what I mean? Iron Man, Riri Williams took over in the comics. She-Hulk was in the comics. Like, Mighty Thor. I don't know. Like, I don't hate it. You know what I mean? They got to do something different. It is a business. I don't hate it. You know what I mean? They got to make their money somehow.
It does seem kind of heavy-handed, I'll say.
Well, it's you know what I mean? Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to argue against that, to be perfectly honest. I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing. Maybe it's because I have a daughter, but I don't know. I do think, though.
I don't care. I don't care if you give us a bunch of strong female heroes.
Right.
Like, I'm all for it. Like, you want to give. I'm so down with this She-Hulk show. Like, I'm ready for it. Right. You know what I'm saying? I'm down with Natalie Portman as Thor. Just don't want them to get rid of Mark Ruffalo and Chris Hemsworth also.
Yeah, but I guess the problem is in live action, though, the actors are going to move on. They don't want to be stuck in these roles forever. Chris Evans is a good example. He did it for 10 years, and then he's kind of like, look, I'm done with it. I'm over it. I'm tired of wearing the mask or the helmet. You know,
at least that went to Anthony Mackie. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, because that made sense in the movies. I feel like the one thing I will say is that the strong female heroes have been there from the beginning. Black Widow was introduced way back in
100%.
Iron Man 2. Natalie Portman was introduced way back in the first Thor movie. It's not like these people weren't around. So it kind of, to me, as long as it still fits the narrative, and it's not like they're
100%.
bringing these random people in, you know what I mean? Then fine.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing that we're getting strong female characters. I think it's a great thing. I think it's awesome.
Right.
I'm just saying I don't want to do it to the detriment of the other strong characters that we have already.
Right.
Like that's where I'm going with it.
Well, that's also, I think, to kind of like, I'm not arguing with you. We're not arguing, but I do think that the one thing we have to remember is that there's a lot of strong characters, OG characters, and all that stuff that are still around. But maybe those actors want to do some other things for now. So it's like they're introducing new characters. 100%. And we are going to get a moment. Kevin Feige somehow does this. I don't know how he does it, but we're going to get a moment, a movie or an event or something where we get every known hero is going to be sharing the screen together.
No, they're going to do that.
They're going to. They did it once. They were able to do it with Avengers Endgame, and they brought characters like fucking Howard the Duck into the fold. They're going to do that at some point. I don't know when.
100%.
You know, they might have to CGI and full-blown CGI some actors who passed away and bring them back, but they're going to do it. And, you know, when that happens, when that moment happens, it's going to be one of the greatest moments of our entire lives, if I'm being honest. You know.
That's the thing is, I'm hoping that She-Hulk is us. We got Miss Marvel coming first. She-Hulk's coming in what?
She-Hulk is August. Hold on, I'll tell you right now. August 17th.
Okay. Miss Marvel and you got She-Hulk both over the summer, right?
Right.
We also have Thor: Love and Thunder sandwiched in between the two of them.
Right. Thor: Love and Thunder is July.
Between these three properties, we get some idea about where this whole thing is going.
I don't think we're gonna do it. I don't think we're getting it. I feel like. See, here's the thing. I was thinking about this from episode 40 of the Theater Room. We talked in depth about how everything's kind of disconnected and we have no idea what the long term game is. So in phase 1, we got 5 movies total, right? It was Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Iron Man 2, then Avengers, right? That was the first phase of the MCU as the Infinity Saga.
That was over like 6 or 8 years,
right? So
they started doing like 3 a year, so
exactly. So I feel like phase 1 we got 5 movies, right? By the end of that 5th movie, we got a definitive Thanos in the end credits or the mid credits or whatever. He's the guy who is behind the scenes, and for the time being, we're building towards him, right? I feel like because of the TV shows now, the Disney Plus shows, including because they're included with the overall storyline, we're gonna get our phase 1 of this new saga is not gonna be 5 movies. I think we're going 10 movies, 11 movies before we get to a moment where it's kind of like, okay, this is where we're going. You know what I mean? Doctor Strange was I think a strong hint with the incursions. I think Loki was a strong hint of what's coming with the branching timelines. And I think by the end of Ant-Man 3 is my opinion. By the end of that, where Kang is confirmed is the main bad guy of Ant-Man 3, I think by the end there is where we get our first real clue, I believe, is going to be Secret Wars. And after that, they're going to build towards it.
They're not hiding the Secret Wars thing.
They're not hiding it. One thing that they're not making clear is that a 2-part Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame style thing? Or is that going to be a 1 movie, American Captain America Civil War style thing? Who knows? Yeah. I think it should be a 2-parter. Honestly, I think that should be the end game. No pun intended.
Like the real Secret Wars, like.
Well, so in Secret Wars, you know the comics better than me, but in Secret Wars, you got heroes from multiple timelines, the same hero from multiple timelines fighting each other, or multiple dimensions. I'm sorry. So you got multiple Captain Americas, multiple Wolverines, that's really it gets very convoluted. But how else do you get the Sonyverse, the MCU, maybe the Disney Plus shows? Like, how do you get everything lined up and going at it without Secret Wars?
I think we go back to what what we spoke about a long time ago, like when we first started talking about all this stuff, is that they're going in different storyline directions for different properties. Right?
Right.
Like we've spoken about it, that you're going to have, you know, the cosmic MCU, you're going to have
Right.
the dark arts MCU, or the supernatural MCU. You're going to have the ground level, you know, you're going to have the government political
Right.
spy stuff.
I agree. Yeah.
Problem I'm having right now, and if that's the case, great, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm all for it. We have no confirmation on where any of those storylines are going.
But that's my point though, is that right now, if that's the direction they're going in, which I think, you know, we both agree that that's the direction they're going in, but right now, if that's the case, then we're seeing multiple phase ones of different sagas play out. So there's the Supernatural phase one. Let's say that's 5 to 6 movies, not including Disney Plus shows. We have the Cosmic phase one, which, as far as we know, is maybe Loki and Eternals, and maybe Thor: Love and Thunder.
Probably just Eternals and
Thor: Love and Thunder, I would think, or
Love and
Guardians of the
Thunder,
Galaxy,
and maybe Miss Marvel.
and probably Miss Marvel. Yeah, it's true. And Captain Marvel 2, which we know Captain Marvel 2 is not coming out till towards the end of next year, or the middle of next year. So like,
well, they I don't know if you could pull it up, but they also released like official dates for the next like few movies.
let me see if I can pull that up there.
Okay.
But you see what I'm saying though. So it's like, before we had one phase one we were dealing with. It was the Avengers, the OG, the original 6 Avengers, and that was it.
Shows.
So
We also didn't have shows, so you were dealing with the original phase one. Like we said, we were dealing with one movie a year. Now we're dealing with 3 movies, 3 shows.
right.
So theoretically, you could still give us some idea of where certain characters are heading.
You're right. You're right.
So, all right, you gave us Black Widow. Right now, we know that Black Widow, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Hawkeye are all connected.
Right.
Those 3 properties are connected somehow. We still don't know where that's heading. You haven't paid off Valentina at all. Right? We don't know what Shang-Chi's linked to. We to something. I have a funny feeling it's going to be linked to Miss Marvel.
I agree. Well, just with Abomination alone, you know.
Well, not She-Hulk, Miss Marvel.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because the most recent trailer that I saw for it, a clear shot of bracelet that I guess is giving her powers.
Right. So you think those are the bracelet?
Looks very similar to the 10 Rings.
Okay. That's interesting.
Extremely similar to the 10 Rings. So I got a funny feeling they're going to link her with Shang-Chi, right? And we know that Doctor Strange, Wanda, and Loki are somehow linked together,
right?
Which is probably going to link to Ant-Man with Quantumania.
Well, 100% Loki has to link to Ant-Man.
We know Kang's going to be there, right? You have She-Hulk. Right? Where does She-Hulk fit in all this? Are starting another storyline?
So,
like maybe Daredevil?
Well, again, I think with the Abomination connection, She-Hulk is going to tie into Shang-Chi, and more specifically to whatever Wong grabbed Shang-Chi for at the end of that movie. So for those if you haven't seen Shang-Chi, what the fuck are you doing? Go watch Shang-Chi. But but even if you don't want to watch it, at the end credit scene for Shang-Chi showed the main character, Shang-Chi, and his friend Katie just kind of hanging out with their boys. And Wong opens up a portal, shows up, and basically says to Shang-Chi, "You better come with me. We got you've now entered this world. Welcome to the Avengers, essentially." And he turns to Miss Marvel. He turns to Katie and says, "You might want to come too." And we see Captain Marvel through a hologram, Mark Ruffalo, so Bruce Banner, not Hulk, Bruce Banner, through a hologram, looking at the power that the rings give off, and realizing that they're super ancient, something they've never seen before. So and in that movie, we also saw Abomination earlier in the movie with Wong. So I feel like She-Hulk is going to tie in or connect to that somehow. I don't know how. Obviously, she's going to defend Abomination, but it's going to connect somehow. And then
that's what I'm saying. Is like we know that there's actions there. We got to see if they pay it off, right? Like we don't know where Moon Knight's going to connect because they decided to I think smartly they decided to like not connect it right away because they wanted to really
Yeah,
flesh
so
out
there was a
that.
lot of rumors. They said that originally they were gonna have Kango and one other character from Eternals cameo in Moon Knight, and they decided against it, which makes sense to me because Moon Knight didn't feel like it would belong in that cosmic kind of side of things. And they did talk about having Kit Harington's character from Eternals cameo
Also heard
in
something
Moon
about
Knight.
Ghost Rider possibly being
Well,
in
that
it.
was actually they revealed today that there was an original idea for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness to have what the hell's his name, Daryl from Walking Dead, Norman Reedus, as Ghost Rider fight Wanda, which would have been amazing, but it wasn't really needed, I don't think, or maybe it would have helped the movie. Who knows?
Again, like the rumor mill for that one was
All over the place, you
all
know.
over the place.
And then just
So I'm
so you
saying,
mentioned
so,
before
like-
about pulling up the list of releases. So I got it up here. We got Miss Marvel coming out June 8th, right? So we know that's going to introduce Kamala Khan. And there's actually a picture here, and it looks like you're right. The rings kind of do look similar, or like they could have been built from the technology that built the 10 rings. So that's
they're
interesting.
not exactly the same. They look slightly similar.
We got Thor: Love and Thunder, July 8th. So that's, again, very, very soon. We don't know how much of that is going to tie into whatever's happening overall. We know that the Guardians of the Galaxy make an appearance, so probably an extended cameo. Jane Foster, Natalie Portman gained a ton of muscle and just looks badass as Thor, so I'm excited
Really
about
might
that.
just be to send off Thor. I mean, I would like us to get Rune King Thor.
Well, I'm wondering. So you made a point, just shortly about how they're kind of handing off all the OG Avengers, are kind of passing the mantle on to someone else. I'm wondering if the plan is to give the Thor mantle to Jane Foster going forward, and then Chris Hemsworth can kind of do whatever he wants, or if the plan is to give her the movies going forward, but to keep him around as the Odin character. I don't know. I mean, there is precedence for that. Yeah.
If he becomes Rune King Thor, then that would make sense. If he doesn't, I also kind of feel like she might die.
I kind of feel like she might too. Then you got to remember too, Natalie Portman wanted out. She did not want to be in the movies anymore.
6 more movies,
right?
As Thor.
And she's the kind of actress or actor or whatever the PC term is these days, where she
him
doesn't want to
signing
stick
on
around for 10 years. So
I do see him doing that because he freaking loves playing Thor.
No, so that's my point. It's kind of like I almost feel like that. Feige made that the point of saying that they're not going to be doing these long-term contracts anymore. They basically only want to work with actors who want to come back, and he is very vocal about he'll play Thor until he retires. So
he doesn't care.
Yeah,
he loves playing.
As long as they keep allowing him to kind of change the character and grow and whatever, he is back for any movie they want. So, who knows what's going to happen there? But that's kind of a big question mark of how much that ties into the things we've seen. Then after that, we got She-Hulk is coming August 17th. We got our first look at it today, and like we said, Abomination's in it. Matt Murdock is supposed to have a cameo. Who knows? But so we'll see what happens there. That's very soon. There's an untitled Marvel Halloween special coming out this October, which
that's the Werewolf by Night Halloween.
Right,
special,
that's the strong rumors. It's Werewolf by Night.
Should tie into Moon Knight.
I think so. It's called the Untitled Marvel Halloween Special, but it is confirmed that it's going to focus on Werewolf by Night. So they'll probably just call it that. Black Panther right now is scheduled for November of 2022, but.
We'll see about that.
I don't know. Like nothing we hear about behind the scenes makes me feel like this movie is actually coming out. So I mean, it'll come out eventually, obviously, but who knows when? So right now it's November. Who knows if it'll stay that way? After that is Guardians of the Galaxy, which is scheduled for this, or the release date tentatively is December of this year. But I think it's gonna get pushed back. I think
that's the Christmas special.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I apologize. I read Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a holiday special, so that's this year. That's a Disney Plus thing. Again, we don't know. That could be like a what if type show where it really has nothing to do with the overall canon. It's just a show. Secret Invasion is early 2023. That is, again, a big step toward... That could connect to She-Hulk. That's a big step towards the Secret Wars.
Did have Samuel L. Jackson show up on stage at the upfronts today.
Right. And so that's coming, and that's going to be big. That could tie into Captain Marvel because the Skrulls and Nick Fury both tied into her. Or the Marvels, I think it's called, is the sequel. Now, this list shows Kraven the Hunter, but Morbius was garbage, so I'm just going to skip over that because fuck the Sonyverse. February of 2023 is Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. And like we said before, this movie is confirmed that Kang the Conqueror is the villain. Now, if you watched Loki, you know that Kang the Conqueror, or really they called him He Who Remains, was kind of the main antagonist there. By the end, that character dies, and the timelines have been branching and exploding, essentially. So Kang the Conqueror, everyone thought was going to be the next Thanos threat, but we don't know now, because they actually moved Ant-Man up, and they swapped it, with the Marvels. So, who knows how big of a threat that's going to be. We don't know if that's going to end Kang or what's going to happen. My guess is by the end of that one, like I said before, we'll get our first kind of official end credit scene that basically says, this is coming, this is the future, let's kind of focus and pay attention. That's February of 2023. And then we got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is May of 2023, May 5th right now. Okay. Again, we have zero idea, besides the fact that we know Peter Quill is going to be looking for Gamora.
I saw set photos.
There's been set photos, but we have no idea as far as the storyline. We know.
I have a very big idea what the storyline is.
What do you think it's going to be?
High evolutionary.
Oh well, that's I guess because we're seeing all the people dressed up as characters, right? So I think the rumor right now is that High Evolutionary is basically the person who built Rocket, and for whatever reason they're going to try and track him down. We also know that
High Evolutionary. So what he was he had a planet and he was doing experiments on people to turn them into like people animal hybrids.
Right.
And I don't remember in the comics if Rocket came from that planet, but I think they're retconning it for the movie.
Yeah, that would make sense, though. That kind of fits the theme. But let me ask you this question, though. How do you think that would tie into the overall MCU? Obviously, they're going to be with Thor at the beginning of Thor: Love and Thunder, but then they're going to go away at some point. Like I think they're going to be there for the first 15 minutes or so, and then go the separate ways. Yeah. We have no idea really how this is going to tie in.
In all honesty, Guardians, up until Infinity War, didn't really tie into the MCU.
It didn't, so it doesn't have to, right?
It doesn't have to. Like I think you keep them as the like scrappy bounty hunters that are just out there doing Guardians of the Galaxy shit until like a world-ending event comes and they're like, Peter, we need your help, type of thing.
So we do right now. What we know about the movie is that they're going to be looking for Gamora, and this is the Gamora from the past that came to the future with Thanos. So she's not the same Gamora we had. She's still a reluctant hero. But say it again.
Wouldn't that be causing an incursion?
I mean, depending on if we're looking at the rules that we've been kind of hearing so far, technically yes, it could. But so she didn't switch dimensions; she traveled in time. So we don't know. Maybe it's not causing an incursion. Maybe it's causing was it a nexus?
I don't know if time travel and dimensions are separate anymore.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, who knows, right? They got to clear that up at some point. But in Loki, what do they call it when there was a branch in the timeline and they had to end it? Was it a nexus event? Yeah. So like she could be causing a nexus event. Maybe, who knows? We also know that Will Poulter is playing Adam Warlock, which is our first look and really kind of well overdue look at Adam Warlock in the MCU. So there's that, and we also know
I heard there's confirmation of Nova.
There's been a lot of rumors about Nova, and we know that there's a Nova movie in the works at some point down the road.
Confirmed a Nova movie.
But we also know that James Gunn himself has said that by the end of this movie, the Guardians of the Galaxy as we know them, meaning Drax, Groot, Rocket, Mantis, and Star-Lord and Gamora, will no longer be. So, there'll either be a new Guardians of the Galaxy group or the name Guardians of the Galaxy will kind of no longer be, and they'll kind of move on and come up with something new. After that, in June, is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which is the only Spider-Verse movie in the Sony label that's worth watching. Skip everything else because we want Sony to sell to MCU because fuck them. And Madam Web is July 7th. I'm just going to skip over it because they're definitely going to ruin that. If they can't get Morbius right, and they're 100% going to ruin that one. We got Captain Marvel 2, The Marvels, is July of 2023. So we know Miss Marvel from the show is going to lead to Captain Marvel, and we also know that Monica Rambeau from WandaVision is going to be in the Marvels. So, that's a long way off.
With her new powers.
Yeah. And then we got Echo coming out in 2023, which is essentially a sequel to Hawkeye. I see El Muerto, which I guess is a Sonyverse 2023 movie, but
that's some reason. I don't know what Sony's doing, but El Muerto is
that's January 2024. Actually, I'm sorry.
He's a luchador Spider-Man villain.
Yeah, and rapper Bad Bunny will be playing him. Nothing about that sounds exciting to me, so I'm just gonna move past it.
It makes no sense.
And then there's also the announced Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, which is basically the trilogy of the animated Spider-Man movies. It's March 2024, so we have no idea what's going to happen there. We could kind of like not dwell on that one. And then at some point, we got Fantastic Four in the MCU, which again, John Watts has stepped down from directing it. So
I've heard something very interesting about that.
What'd you hear?
I heard that they have tapped a certain director to come back.
Oh, John Krasinski?
Fantastic Four.
What'd you hear?
Favreau.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be fantastic. I would love for him to do it. No pun intended. That'd be fantastic.
He fell out with the Disney execs when it came to Iron Man 2. It wasn't like a bad fallout because they kept him on to direct Mandalorian.
Right. Obviously, he's in good. And he has the hearts of nerds across the world. So,
And he didn't cut ties with them. He just went off the Iron Man train as far as directing is concerned.
Right.
Whether with Shane Black and everything like that. Because he said that the studio was really trying to push him with Iron Man 2 on a lot of different things. So it wasn't bad blood, it just wasn't working out, so they moved on and went different ways, but he kind of stayed with them anyway because and the main producer on Fantastic Four is Dave Filoni.
Right. Oh, that'd be amazing. Oh my God. That gets me so excited. But
so if that's true, I mean, I saw a couple different sources on it, and they did preface the news with the source that they're getting it from was a newer source that they haven't really used before, so we're not sure how true it is. Okay. But it makes sense to me.
It makes a lot of sense.
If you're gonna have anybody restart this whole, because really, like realistically, if we're really thinking about this, the way you start a new phase is with Fantastic Four.
So now that's the one thing that I've been kind of thinking about is, we keep talking about what direction is Marvel going in right now? What's the MCU overall like focused on? I almost feel like right now we're not even a part of a phase. They're calling it Phase 4. I don't think so. If we take the Infinity Saga, forget the phases. If we just call it the Infinity Saga, there's a pretty clear through line from the very first movie all the way to the end. Right now, everything's disconnected, and I think the reason for that is because we're just getting a lot of what essentially is standalone properties. And our first real phase, I agree with you, is going to start with Fantastic Four. That'll be like this is the beginning of a new storyline, which means that we got a long time to go before we get to another Avengers style movie.
I mean, and we all might have to settle in to never see an Avengers style movie again.
Well, so that's the other thing, I think one thing that people need to understand is that we got used to, I guess, these high tier, high quality movies and capping it off with Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame. But like, you can't expect that to be the build up constantly because it'll just get boring. They need to give us like an Avengers style movie could be the X-Men or the Young Avengers or the Fantastic Four. Why can't Guardians of the Galaxy, the next Guardians of the Galaxy, be an Avengers style movie? Why can't Thor: Love and Thunder be an Avengers style movie? I mean, as long as to me, Spider-Man: No Way Home was an Avengers style movie. The excitement I had for the movie, the feeling I had during the movie, like that was the same experience or a similar experience to the Avengers. 100%. So we don't need it to say the Avengers on the movie. It could be just the hero, you know what I mean? But it's more about how we care about.
A movie with like
crossover. Well, I mean,
these different teams.
We're also. I mean, think about it though. We're at a point now where we're getting crossovers almost every movie. Every single movie and TV show is giving us crossovers that we've always wanted.
No, I mean, not really.
Well, think about it. Hawkeye gave us Kingpin. Spider-Man: No Way Home, besides Toby and Andrew, gave us Daredevil.
It really wasn't a crossover.
That's a crossover. What do you mean it's not a crossover? It's Kingpin from the Daredevils.
I mean, they're basically just saying that Hawkeye was in New York where the Kingpin is.
And they fought. Well, not Hawkeye. Kate Bishop and fought.
It's a loose. It's
All
a
right,
loose.
all right, fine. Then
crossover.
Yelena crossed over into that property, right? She's a Black Widow. She crossed over.
I don't feel like that's a crossover. I feel like that's the story arc.
It's the definition of a crossover. It's the definition of a crossover.
Hawkeye was kind of like Black Widow too.
It's the definite. I'm telling you, it's the definition of a crossover. We got
like a crossover to me is like Infinity War, right?
Yeah.
The Guardians of the Galaxy are now working with Tony Stark.
No, but you got to remember,
they never would have seen.
But the first crossover we got was Avengers. You know what I mean? Like that's not the Infinity War style. That's a crossover movie. They all work together. You know what I mean? We have in Doctor Strange, right? We had crossovers galore. We were not, well, I guess cameos, not really crossovers, but we had cameos. You know what I mean? We had
a lot of cameos. We don't have a lot of.
Well, we had Wanda in a Doctor Strange movie. I mean, that's a crossover. You know what I mean? Technically, they're not.
I mean, is it
100%? 100%. That's the same kind of crossover as
fast and loose with the term.
No. Wanda showing up in Doctor Strange is the same as Thor showing up in Avengers. It's a crossover movie.
I look at Thor Ragnarok as a crossover.
100%. The Hulk and Thor spent the entire movie together. That's a crossover.
Exactly. It was like a buddy cop movie.
Right. So we'll get that. We'll get the movies where Doctor Strange spent the entire movie in Spider-Man No Way Home. That's a crossover. I
hope so.
We're 100%. We're 100% getting them. But anyway, so Fantastic Four is coming at some point. There's still a lot of questions up in the air about it, but I do think Marvel understands that Fantastic Four might be one of their most important movies coming, and they're going to do it right.
Here's my question about this. Right. This has been bothering me since Doctor Strange. Okay. We get John Krasinski back as Richards. Right? I'm assuming yes.
Yeah, we could. I don't think we need to, but we could.
Doctor Strange, and this is why they really need to start nailing down the rules to this multiverse shit. Otherwise, there's going to be plot holes fucking galore.
Well, that's an understatement, yeah.
Doctor Strange, every variant that we saw was same Doctor Strange.
Right.
Slightly different, but like it was Benedict Cumberbatch.
Right.
Every variant of Wanda was Elizabeth Olsen. Frodo, same actor.
Right.
So on and so forth. In Loki, all of Loki's variants are different.
Right, but again, Loki is time travel. That's basically the reason why I say time travel and interdimensional travel are two different things in the MCU. Because for that exact point, your variant could be someone else.
He explained it was that they're the same.
Yeah, but I mean, Feige is the Grand Master, right? So I guess who knows? But I don't know.
So that's what I mean is like a lot of this is so confusing to us because we're not getting answers anywhere.
Well, we will. Anywhere. We have to trust in this process.
I mean, we are what? Phase 4 at Black Widow, which we're not really counting.
That's right? Phase 1. It just came out during Phase 4, but it's a Phase 1 movie.
It's a Phase 1 movie. Phase 2 maybe.
Phase 2 maybe. Yeah.
So you got Shang-Chi, Captain America: Winter Soldier, WandaVision, Loki, Hawkeye, Doctor Strange 2. What else do we have?
Hawkeye.
What If.
And What If, yeah.
I said Hawkeye.
Oh, you said Hawkeye. And What If, right? Yeah.
You're talking about 5, 6 if you're counting What If, and we know it's canon, but like
right.
I'm really sure about it. You know what I mean? So let's say 5 properties and no answers.
Yeah, but I feel like it's the questions are too big, so we're gonna have to wait a while before we really get clarification.
You can start answering some of them, man.
Start answering everything you answer right now is gonna make more questions. I feel like. But anyway, let me keep going.
Show me.
Let me keep
at the
going.
very least, show me Val setting up Thunderbolts. You know what I'm saying? At least then we were like, okay, so at least then Sam and Bucky, they're going to be going against the Thunderbolts. They're going to put a team together, maybe Young Avengers,
right.
Maybe get Clint in there. All right, so now we at least have something over there,
But we still might find that might happen.
The other thing too is like they had a perfect opportunity with Moon Knight, the link to Kang.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't have any kind of link towards that
with the Ram and Tut storyline,
right?
Kang was ramming Tut and this, that, and the
That
other
still
thing,
could be the storyline, but yeah, I'm surprised they didn't actually.
and it might be, but like, how do you not do that?
So anyway, let me move on because we got to wrap it up here. We're hitting an hour and 50 minutes.
Sorry, I'm getting.
I know it's easy to get off the rails. So we got Fantastic Four. Then we got Blade is still supposed to come, which all we've done so far is heard Mahershala Ali's voice. That's a movie. That's full blown MCU in theater release.
Right. I know they went back and forth on it that it was going to be a show, it was going to be a movie.
No, it's confirmed now. It's a movie, and it's supposed to be November of 2024. So that's a long way off.
Okay.
Captain America 4 we know is coming, but we don't even have anything close to a release date. All we know is Anthony Mackie is Captain America officially, and he'll be the main star of that movie. We do know that a Deadpool 3 is coming. We have zero idea what the hell that's supposed to be. We know that they're about to start filming Loki Season 2, so we don't have any idea when that's coming, but that's a Disney Plus show. We have Ironheart, a Disney Plus show, which is not until 2023 or probably 2024.
It might be 23 if Black Panther's coming out this year.
Yeah, that might be 23 because Armor Wars with Don Cheadle is also supposed to be 2023, late 2023, and I think she's going to be kind of a part of that also. So there's that. Yeah. And then there's also a title for a Disney Plus show about Wakanda that was said it was going to happen, but since then we've had no mention of it. But it was essentially supposed to be kind of like a companion show to Black Panther, whereas Black Panther focuses on the people and like in power essentially in Wakanda. This will focus on some aspect of the actual nation of Wakanda.
It's probably going to be about the Dora Milaje.
That's what I would think. That would make sense. But we've got literally they mentioned it was coming, and that was it. Nothing since then.
That might get thrown out when Wakanda
I'm sure.
Crashed.
We have, and then I don't know how much this is going to tie into the overall MCU, but there's a sequel show to the X-Men animated cartoon that's in the works for Disney Plus.
X-Men 97.
Yep.
Yeah.
What If Season 2 is in the works. And then Spider-Man Freshman Year is an animated show that it takes place in the MCU. So this is not a Sony Spider-Man property. This is an MCU Spider-Man property about Peter Parker when he was a kid, basically. Gaining his powers.
It's going to be him getting his powers.
Yeah, it'll be basically telling us the origin of him. We also have...
They're basically going to give us his origin story because they never gave us one.
We have Agatha, House of Harkness. At some point is coming. Sequel to WandaVision, essentially. Marvel Zombies, which is basically a follow-up from or a sequel to What If in the same kind of animation style, but focused 100% on the zombies, Marvel Zombies. And then that's basically everything that's been announced. So a lot of stuff in the works. And... we're going to be here for it all. Honestly, we're going to be breaking down everything. So, all right, we're just about at 2 hours. We're going to have to call it because we can go on and on. I mean, I can talk about this for hours. So, for everyone who jumped into the chat, thank you so much for jumping in. Buttersworth, always a pleasure having you in the chat. Zuplex, thank you for taking 2 hours with me. And we'll be back here. If you didn't get a chance to watch it live, you'll catch it on YouTube. It'll be on all the podcasting stations. I have all the social medias scrolling across the bottom. And GG to everybody, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
GG, baby.
I think this weekend is the Multiversal podcast that ScytheX runs, so keep an eye out for that. Focused mostly on the gaming world. And we will see you guys next week. Later. And let's go Rangers. Tomorrow is round 2. Let's go.
Let's go Rangers. You want the cup.